Hi there. I know you guys didn't expect to see me today. And I will admit, I'm a little nervous today. But I just wanted to respond to the call for masks for the medical community. And I thought, there's sewists, like this is my one really good skill, right, that I have. And anytime I can help out doing that, I would really like to. But I will say that I've been watching people make masks mostly for personal use, and I've told people straight up that in person, like, don't use those masks. I know enough to know that I don't know anything. So, you know what I mean? Like, we all can come up with what we think is best, or we're trying to fill in the blanks, right? We're kind of like, well, maybe, like, our logic might not be accurate. So, that's what I want to say. Hey, Megan, how's it going? So, that being said, the reason I'm doing this is because there are medical facilities looking for masks, and there already are a lot of tutorials out there, which are great. I haven't watched any of them. I watched the one by the Deaconess Health group, so I could make sure that I did it the way they were asking. My medical facilities aren't not asking for these things, and nowhere in California is quite yet. I saw someone on Instagram actually check. Yes, and so, but the thing is, I want to be really, really, really clear, and I'm probably going to say this a million times during the stream. These are not medical masks that would prevent you from getting sick or a disease. They are going to be probably like frontline folks checking in. These are they're a very limited use, but the medical facilities are really hurting for them, and maybe this will help them divert the ones that they really need in crisis situations to the people who need them, whereas these are a little bit different use. There are a few medical facilities on the West Coast, like in Washington and Oregon, I think, that are going to be putting together kits for sewers to sew together. And when I posted that graph of the fabrics, I actually got that from an article and like a study that was done. It was really just to like get your attention. Hi, Eliza. How's it going? Hey, Judith. How's it going? Thanks for sharing that. Hey, late night. Hey, Nancy. How's it going? So, I just want to make it really clear. I am going to be following the guidelines that the Turban Project has for the masks that they have on their website, and for the Deaconess Health group, they posted use cotton. So first and foremost, they're not going to just hand a mask you made to a medical worker. They're going to sterilize it. So you can't hand them something that can't be sterilized or reworn. These are not for personal use. And if y'all are buying masks, stop buying masks, as the medical community really needs them. So yeah, kind of, Nancy. In fact, and I really want to say also that there are CDC guidelines for when this is appropriate. So it's not that this is a completely non-usable item. There is guidelines in place for this type of situation. Hi, Carol. Hi, Maria. Yeah. Yeah, so I really want to underscore, check with the medical facilities around you if they need them, and ask them what they need. You know what I mean? Like, just the only reason I'm doing this, like I said, my medical facility thankfully isn't asking for something like that right now, but they might. I just thought I would give you guys a little bit of help just in case you are in one of the couple of areas looking for these. And then that way you have something to refer to, So yeah, but they're not for personal use. These are not for your use. I am not advocating people wear these masks around town at all. So they are, I am going by what the Deaconess Health group looked for. If you Google masks, like home sewn masks for the medical community, you will find a few articles, and that will link you to a few articles about like what's appropriate. Hey, a quilter. So there is a Forbes article, a New York Times article, and if you go to the Deaconess website, I've never heard of Deaconess, but I've seen a few people share it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so these are really just so that just in case your medical facility ends up needing something like this and they need some reusable masks that they can, provide to some of the workers that this would be appropriate for, this is your way to help, right? So yeah, exactly what Eliza said. So yeah, I mean, I do see people posting that on Instagram wearing the masks and things, but it's not really a good use for these at all. So yeah, exactly, Terry. Yeah, so I just really want to put that out there because I'm not an expert in this. The only thing I know is how little I know. And when as soon as I saw that chart of all the like materials that would be appropriate or what they're, it's not even that those are the materials that are appropriate. Those are the materials they tested. So you have to think in terms of like when they're doing these tests and things. It doesn't mean that those are the only things that were viable. Those were the things they tested. You know what I mean? So putting that vacuum cleaner bag at the top is really enticing. Like, oh, I have a vacuum cleaner bag. I actually don't, but I know that some folks do. But the thing is, they can't sterilize that and they can't reuse it. So don't use that material. Don't be too clever. It's really easy for me to overthink this and over-engineer and be too clever about it, right? Just stick to what they're asking for and let the experts decide. Because if you hand them something they can't use, you've wasted your time and you've given them something they have to deal with. I'm going to be really blunt today. Sometimes one good deed can be a burden. You know what I mean? It's like when we really, really, really want to help people, and we just are having this outpouring of emotion for something going on, and everyone sends them stuffed animals, right? That person doesn't need stuffed animals, right? But it makes us feel better. I think it's a good time to look at what we're doing and not what only makes us feel better, but what's actually really useful, and paying attention to the research and the actual people that are really smart and knowledgeable about this and what they're saying. Not opinions about it, but what the professionals are saying. So that's what I'm going to say, and I'll probably say this a bunch today. That being said, it's already my lunchtime. I didn't eat lunch beforehand, so I'm going to get cracking here. So I have a scrap piece of paper here that I'm going to make the pattern pieces. The guidelines I'm following from the Turban Project, it's not a downloadable pattern, but there are some measurements on there. So you like bluntness. If you guys don't really see this side of me, I'm an extremely blunt person. It's probably why I'm best at arm's reach like this on YouTube. It forces me to be polite. So I am actually a very blunt person. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm just trying to be truthful. Exactly, Lisa. I'm going to probably have to take my jacket off because I'm already getting hot. I'm a little nervous because I can see already people are like, wait, don't do that. And I'm like, wait, you're not reading what I wrote, So I hope you don't get hangry. You don't want to see me hangry, Nancy. I ate a little piece of chicken right before. All right, so let's do it. So the adult size is 6 by 9 inches, and the 9 inches goes across the face. So the long way is this way. Maria knows I'm blunt. I bet all of my friends that know me in real life are like, that's not really the Sarah me. I'm a very honest, blunt person. I'm a very nice person, but I'm pretty blunt. All right, so we're going to do this 6 by 9, and I'll draw in Sharpie once I get this drawn out so you can see it. There is a kid's size, so I'm going to see how I feel about what I can do. I think the biggest issue for folks is if they're starting this project and they didn't get to go to the store to buy some of the supplies, especially elastic. This is crazy because I have no idea what I had them for, but I had all these little pieces of elastic that were this little narrow one. like I had like 50 of them and they were cut, and I've had them for years and I don't know what they were from. And I bet they were the perfect length for this, 7 inches. And when I moved to this building, I finally was like, throw those away. You're never going to use those. And I just went looking for them. I was like, gosh darn it. So I think the one thing I'm going to try and provide you is an alternative if you don't have this elastic. I did see people comment on other posts that it's nice if it's a tie that they can tie close. And so I'm going to give you some measurements for that. In fact, I did not write down my measurements for that. But I know what it is. It's 20 inches. Yeah. 20 inches plus loop. All right. This is on the fly. So I apologize for anybody watching this in the future and is like, whoa, lady, that is not a 5-minute video. It's not going to be a 5-minute video. So just fast forward if you want. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just I just really would like to put out the information in this way so that people aren't getting another type of information. So, all right. So then the kids one is 5 by 7.5. All right. So 7.5. When you go to pick out your fabrics, remember, don't sweat it too much, you guys. Use a fabric that you don't want, and just remember that they are for many genders and ages, So I just picked a bunch of things I had, and I actually put a couple away because I think that the two I thought that would be great for someone who really wants just a very simple plain mask. The pattern was going to fight with my camera, so that's the only consideration I'm kind of thinking of. I don't want the camera to do that weird thing it does when it's trying to focus on lines, and then it gives us that weird pixelated thing, so oh, sorry, I forgot to do the Sharpie thing. I'm moving quick, sorry. But here we go. Let's get rid of these. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sarah Me, and this isn't generally what we stream, but I do really like to help folks when they're trying to come up with production stuff. So, all right, so I'm going to put a grain line on here just to remind you that this is the way it's going to be oriented, like this. Okay? Yep. So the scrap buster idea is a great idea. I feel like, this is, let's write on here. So next week, when the world is cured of this, I don't forget what this was for. I'm an optimist. Scraps are great, but if you're someone that wants to do this on a large scale, that's why I'm kind of giving you this kind of guidance, because when you watch the Deaconess video, she said, each one will take about 15 minutes, and I went, oof, 15 to 20 minutes. I was like, wow, that's a long time. Right, you hold on to it for years, and then when you need it, yeah, exactly. Like this one would totally fight with the camera, right? It's not so bad. I'm trying to keep track of your conversations in there. All right, so I'm going to stack my fabrics. And I know that with my 45 millimeter rotary knife, I can do about 8 layers. Wait, is it 12? Wait. Oof. Rand would tell me. What is it? Is it 8 layers or 12 layers? I feel like it's 8 layers for the stiffener. So let's just cut this baby off right here. Get it out of the way. And I'm just gonna line it up. So the only thing I'm thinking of really is any type of directional print. You just need to orient that when you sew it. The pattern is symmetrical, so you don't have to worry about laying it that way unless you're really trying to accommodate speed. then you would really like to probably pay attention to laying these all the same way. Why is there a wrinkle? I need to get rid of this. Yeah, so I put a few notes in the description of this video. I really encourage people to read that. It's the same text that I wrote on Instagram, that this is not for personal use. And I really think, like, if you're in one of those areas that your medical professionals need some of this, check out what they need, because it might be different. I know it seems like they should all be the same, but you never know. You don't want them to dismiss it. So the thing I'm looking at with these cats is that they go, meow. So they're printed a little off grain. So let's see here. Oh, Daika, yeah. Hi, Lorraine, how's it going? Yeah, I think so. I mean, and so to be honest, like, I think Deaconess now is overwhelmed with them. And that's the thing. You don't want to just be like, oh, I'm doing a good deed. Here you go. Have all this work I did. And they're like, we don't really have time or resources to find a home for these masks that you've made, you know? And then you're feeling a little bit like they're being ungrateful. I'm just being really blunt. So that's why I say ask around you. The other thing is, like, you probably want to keep this to like a local effort. And I say that mostly because shipping something like this, I'm not sure if there's going to be the ability to ship things right now, because I have a few things I need to ship right now. And I was just thinking, oh, I'll use UPS and go to the UPS store. And I was like, UPS store is probably closed now, you know? All right, so let's stop there. I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 10 layers here. That's probably too much, but we'll see. And I was gonna flip it so we could see the drawing, but this is what I'll do. I'm just gonna put a light fabric on top. Get these layers nice. Oh, these kitty cats are so crooked though. I'm gonna kind of pull them like that. We don't want those kitties to be too crooked. This one I think is pre-washed. It's much narrower and it's wrinkly. Yeah, okay, Nancy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see, I think that, like, thinking about just keeping it local. There are enough sewists in the world that every local area will have them. Sorry, I can feel a wrinkle in here. I don't know what it is. All right, that's just enough. So then we're going to trace these off like this. I don't know if I'm going to make this many. Maybe I shouldn't cut this many. And I would say that you would want to do a lot more adults than you would children. We'll just do one stack of the children. So I'll just do this for now. Huge waste fabric. Sorry, I know that probably stresses a few of you out, but we're moving fast today. All right, so I could probably put a new blade in, and this would be a lot easier. Sorry if my camera's gonna shake. It's a little thick, so it's probably gonna wiggle the frame holding the camera, since it's on the table, not the other thing. Ooh, this is really gonna stuff my floor poof, though. So let's set these stacks aside, and then I'm actually going to restack those once I'm done. I've never production sewn these, so I may come up with different ideas along the way. We're not trying to make money with it, but it is nice when you can do this in a kind of a mindless way. You'll be able to do more. All right. So now, right now we have, what is this, 10, right? So this is 30 adult masks and 10 kids masks right there. So that's pretty quick. Now, if you are doing any thread changes, and what I would say, you guys, is pick out an assortment of fabrics where you don't have to do thread changes. What else would I say? I would also, if you're doing it like I just did with two layers of each fabric, maybe refold them and put them face to each other before you cut, so you don't have to do this next step, which I'm gonna actually now put all these. So I don't really have to worry about the fabric because of the, I'm gonna use the same thread color in each one, you know? But I'm just gonna stack these right now, right sides together. Just do it right now so I can do a huge batch of them, right? The sewing is the same on the kids and on the adult. There's only one elastic measurement given for both. So here we go. All right, let's sew these. So then you also need, oh, so I should tell you the measurements for the kids mask is 5 inches in the height, 7.5 in the width. And on the adult, it is 6 inches in the height and 9 inches across side to side. And then the elastic measurement is 7 inches, and they say to cut 2. And that is a style where the elastic hooks back to the mask like this. And I'm going to show you a method where we can make it with a tie, so they can tie it to the back of the head. And it'll still kind of function in the same way, because we're still going to use like a little loop here and then put our tie to that, all right, so that it still pulls from the top and the bottom of the mask. All right, so we have this. I have a stack of binding here. I have some elastic. What else do I need? I'm just going to take these. We can take maybe one of these kid ones. Let's do that. Like that. This was my little tie trial, so I'm gonna bring that. And I'm gonna switch my cameras so that it faces my sewing machine. So if you're new here, just bear with me here. You might be able to still hear me because I put my microphone on that scene, but I might not be able to see the chat for a second. And feel free to ask questions and, you know, bring up any concerns or questions, because we can help maybe address that. So let me see, here was my camera change thing. Just a second. This way I don't make you seasick when I flip the camera around. There are just too many cords in our lives, am I right? Got my mouse. Is a stabilizer called for? Is there a stabilizer called for it? Because I didn't see it. The other lady did. Should I do that? I wasn't sure. You know, the one thing about that turban project pattern is it's not a download. You have to create it yourself. And you'll be able to see the chat. Is that okay? That work for you guys? Oh, do I look dark or what? She's for the fold. I didn't see that on the Deaconess thing. I have like 4 pairs of scissors here because I don't have my regular scissors, and I was like, all right, I need to make sure I have scissors that cut. I still got to switch my machine to have a regular foot on it. So if you're new here, I use an industrial sewing machine, but the sewing of these, it'll be really simple and straightforward on a home sewing machine. You shouldn't have any issues. You would say no? All right. Make sure I have cream thread. I do. Did that sound funny? Nah. Yeah, so she's for the folds, the tucks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Who knows which of those scissors will be good. I'll try them out. Okay, so where'd the elastic go? Oh, here it is. Oh, here's another pair of scissors. And my water. It's like Christmas over here. All right. Oh, okay, great, Terry. An insert. Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see an insert. Sorry, let me just check a few things, make sure everything's working here. So if you're not familiar with me and my machine, if you're new here, I use an industrial sewing machine that also has the heel lift. So it's my foot that's lifting up the presser foot there. But when I'm done sewing, I can also clip the thread using my foot. I just press and it clips the thread and spits it out, spits my project out, essentially, kind of. But it leaves the presser foot up for a few seconds after I'm done. And then if I don't like engage with it, it'll just slam down. So you will hear that noise. In fact, I think if you type in exclamation point noise in the chat, it'll tell you what that is. And that's me and my machine. So my machine's name is Phoenix, by the way. All right, so I have a roll of binding because I'm going to give you this other tip on how to make some ties. Oh, okay, Eliza. See, I looked for something like that, but I didn't see anything like that. So I'm just sticking with that medical group and their tips. But I can probably give you a way to do that. Nope. Without knowing what it is, I mean, I can give you the way to sew that, but just remember you might want to look up that. All right, so if you don't have ribbons or ties, I'm going to use some binding, and I know that's kind of probably a pretty ambitious way to sew the ties. I have a lot of bias binding on hand, and it's something I'm really comfortable sewing. But you could also use just a very simple ribbon, like a poly grosgrain ribbon. I would use something kind of narrow, like a 1/4 inch if you have it, because that's a lot easier to tie when it's narrow. And it's also washable and it'll hold up. And just make sure that you knot the ends so that it doesn't fray, or fold it on itself and hem it so that it doesn't fray. And then the other thing I would do is make sure if you do use the ribbon ties, that if they're really narrow ribbon, I would knot it, and when you put it in the seam like we're going to do with the elastic, because things like that can kind of slip out of the seam. All right, so we'll do our little kid one here first. This is a pretty easy pattern. So let's see, here's my elastic. We'll get 2 pieces, 7 inches. It looks like the elastic for kids and adults is the same. That's not too surprising, only because kids have big heads. They just do. They're born with their head almost full size. So their head grows kind of the least on their body. Like if you were to do some, oh my God, I cannot get that back on there. If you were to look at studies where they compare things like that on how a human develops, it's kind of funny how you don't realize how big a kid's head is until you start doing it in perspective of how big our head is to our body and a kid's head to their body. They don't have a neck either. Oh, okay, Megan. Yeah, I don't know that person, so that's great. You can check that person out too for some tips. All right, now you're going to knot each end of the elastic. I'm going to try and get as close to the end as possible. If I can tie a knot. What the heck? There's like a little fold there and it won't let me fold it. Okay. Just kind of slide it down there. of our other one. And what I would do is if you're doing elastic, I would do all these. Do all of them right now. Cut all your elastics, sit there and knot the ends of each one. You'll get really good at it. Have these all sitting there ready to go. We'll do 2 more for an adult. See, sometimes you don't have a spool and you use the end of your check box. You know, like the box you get your checks in. That's what that is. It's the corner of my box of checks. Whatever it takes, right? To keep your stuff organized. Not everything's on a pretty, beautiful wooden spool. It's, you know, you got to do what you got to do. All right. So let's see. Let's knot these. I could have stood to iron these fabrics, and so maybe I'll do that really quick so that they don't give me any trouble. So iron your fabric before you cut it. See, I told you, some of these tips are going to be out of order. Iron your fabrics before you cut them. And let's iron mine really quick. I do have an iron camera. Here we go. It's a little cockeyed, isn't it? Okay. Here we go. Oh, it's not even on. I even tried to turn it on earlier. Didn't realize it wasn't on. All right, so let's just separate these out so I can iron a bunch at once. This one has the fold going down the middle of it. We can just wet that. Now, if you want to pre-wash your fabric before you sew these, that's fine. But I actually don't think it's necessary because what they say is that these are going directly into a facility to sterilize them. They are going to get laundered and sterilized. And I think if you're going to pick your fabrics, the 100% cotton is great. I think a poplin would be a nice tightly woven one rather than these quilting cottons. I only had knit print to do that with, and I think knit print just looks kind of weird on the camera, so I didn't do it. I didn't want it to be distracting for these. So yeah, if you have like a poplin, that's a tighter weave. You know, and in reading that chart was really interesting because I thought, maybe silk would be good. Silk was at the bottom. And then I thought it through. I was like, you know, that's kind of, you know, of course. Silk is a very breathable fiber. It's why it's used as an insulation in garments. So that makes sense. See, it's some of those things like you just don't realize the logic behind. So you can't make those assumptions. Just do what they say. How did I cut this right in the middle of the fold? What the heck? All right. I have my little binding thing because we're going to make some binding. I'm going to give you lots of tips on that. Nancy, I know. That box used to be used for something else. Multicolored Sharpies. I do have checks, but I hardly use them too. All right, so take 2 of your pieces, put them right sides together, and I'm pretty sure she did like a 3/8 inch seam. And you're going to leave open a small section so that you can turn this right side out. So now you're going to also lay your elastic inside here at the corners. Maybe you can use a binder clip or you know, a clover clip or something. I think I'm just going to hold it here as I go. I think what I'll do actually is I'll start down here at the bottom and I'll approach the corner and I'll just stick it in there as I go. This is probably going to be your fussiest bit, to be honest. Push the elastic up against there at that corner. And the knot is on the inside. There we go. Those boxes were handy. I feel like my knots could have been a lot closer to the end of the piece of elastic. That might be something you just get better and better at. Like, it feels like a little too much of my elastic is sticking out. But this is my very first one. I've never made one of these. So I left quite a big opening. It's probably about 3.5 inches there. I'm going to clip my corners. I am not going to clip the elastic though. And what I would do if I was doing this production is now I would sew this around on all my masks. Then I would clip them all. And then I would do the next step and the next step, just like that. I'm going to sew one through first so I can get the hang of it. I like to kind of encounter things that I may not have thought out or foreseen, you know. No matter how well you think some of these things out, something always creeps up. And I'm thinking that with that hole at the bottom, you could, if you had finished that edge, leave it as the opening for maybe what Eliza was talking about. So now here we have the beginnings of our mask here. Now I didn't pin that together. I don't really think you need to, but if it makes you feel more comfortable, go for it. All right, and so now you would press all of your masks with the iron. I'll just do that really quick. And like I said, I'm just sewing one through first, and then we'll do the others, the best production style I can come up with on the fly. Don't iron the elastic. I wouldn't even iron these, honestly, in production, but if you need to, go for it. The only reason I wouldn't is because it takes longer. But you know what? If you can make just 5 masks, and everybody made 5 masks, that's going to make a big impact, right? If you can make 10 or 20 masks and ironing it, that's no big deal. We're not trying to make money here, right? So, all right, so I'm going to start on the bottom and close that hole. But you're also going to need to do your tucks now. And I'm going to do it on the fly. I like how the woman doing it was like, this is the one area I might redo if I don't like it. That was pretty cute. So they're wanting 3 tucks on the side. So now you have this kind of gusset happening. You know, you have that space there, right? Just like that. But we also need to close this right here, and so that's why I'm going to go across the bottom first and edge stitch here, and then do a wider, about 1/4 inch away from the edge stitch along the edge that I'm tucking. Okay. Yeah, Judith, I mean, you know, I have to make it easy for me to do. So now I'm going to tuck this. They don't give any measurements for this. If you want to pin it, go for it. But I am thinking that you're going to do a pretty good job, you know? Try and get that edge there. This would be a good time to use the awl. So you can kind of take that awl and push it under there like that. I didn't see any guidelines for finished measurements on the sides here. And that's really, that would be useful. But here's the deal, you guys. It's kind of incredible how much we all vary person to person and size-wise, especially proportion to, you know, like my eyes are here compared to my nose compared to someone else. So in the famous words of one of the designers I used to work with, it's going to fit someone, you know. Awesome, a quilter, let us know. So here we go. Here's our first little mask, right? This is the kid size. That would actually fit me, but it would be kind of tight. So here we go. It's pretty cute. And now that one needs to be sterilized. All right, so now let's try this out. Oh, thanks for following, Dina. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm tucking towards the bottom. Oh, that's awesome, Judith. That's what it looked like they were doing. The thing is, if the tuck's going towards the bottom isn't correct, you can always flip it over and wear it the other way. You see that? So see how these tucks are going down? There, I'll put my finger under there, right there. So now I'm gonna flip it over. Now they go up. So you're safe either way. Isn't that weird? So, all right, so that's our first little one. Hopefully we're doing this correctly. Let's get rid of my thread vomit there. I don't like that at all. We all know how I feel about starts and stops. Okay. All right, so we'll do one more with the elastic, and then I'm gonna walk you through how to make some bias binding or use the ribbons, because I feel like that's really the sticky point for a lot of folks. It is for me, at least. I don't have this much elastic laying around, and I can't go to the store and get any, right? And I don't think it's worth, you know, giving our people shipping food and toilet paper to people right now one more thing to order, right? We can probably come up with things in our stash best we can, or ask another sewing friend to leave some on the curb for you. Maybe you can swing by and get it, you know? Oh, okay, Eliza. Yeah, maybe like a pipe cleaner or something. Can a pipe cleaner be... I'm trying to think like a wire what we would have. You know what would work really good is the thing that goes across your coffee. You know, that you seal your coffee with? That feels very MacGyver-ish, but I wonder if, you know, you slipped it in there and then sewed below it to hold it in there. I'm thinking a quilter or that if they used a poly cotton ribbon, they have it on hand, I'm going to use some bias binding. Nothing I did today is also pre-washed, but I think that because they're going to launder it, that's going to hopefully take care of that. All right, so again, I'm going to start on the bottom. That hole I left myself before was plenty. All right, so when I get there, I'm going to turn, I'm going to slip my elastic in there. If you want, you can give yourself a little notch or something. Let's put my awl right up there, just like that. And you know, maybe it doesn't, like right now, I will tell you, when I'm doing this right now, look, it feels like I'm trying to pull it a little bit. But remember, once it's tucked, it gets closer together. So just put up with the awkwardness for a second. Now, if you made your elastic and it's too long, remember, they can knot it and make it smaller. Yeah, exactly, Eliza. See, I actually wanted to show that kind of method, and I was like, ooh, I don't really want to start like getting into redesigning the mask for them if that's not what they want, but I can show you guys that. That would be the slickest way to do it, to be honest. We'll go through a couple and do that. These will most likely, remember this, they will most likely be thrown away at the end of this crisis. They do not need to be heirloom quality. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna pull my elastic away, trim this here, make it a little easier to trim the corners. I don't remember her doing that in the video. All right, so that hole's a little smaller. I like to put my thumb in there, pull it like this with the corners. My thumb, I push it in there to the corner, push this sideways, and then pull it out. And then that kind of turns my corner completely. I just remember the smell of the mask. My mom was a nurse and worked in a hospital. I just remember the smell was so distinctive. Yeah, Liza. Oh, well, thanks for your service. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do the no iron one. We're going to pull this closed like this. Stick our fingers in there. Get all those little loose ends there. I like to roll this so that I get that edge nice on the edge. Poke that in there, and now you're going to finger press it, okay? Just like that. Smooth this out. We're just going to press it as we go. We're going to edge stitch to shut that little spot there. And then when we turn, now we're going to start tucking. So let's roll that edge there. Tuck. 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 Sewing about a 1/4 inch from the edge there. It'll be easier if you sew it about a 1/4 inch from the edge there rather than right on the edge, only because your machine is likely to fall off that edge right there doing those tucks. All right, so we're going to tuck towards ourselves now. Mine are about a 1/2 inch deep. All right, now we back stitch. Here we go. This is the adult size. There we go. All right, so now let's talk about doing one with ribbon. So this is how I decided how to make the ribbon long enough. So my experience with anything that has a ribbon or a tie of any sort, you need a lot more length than you realize. So let's just test out my theory. So what I'm thinking is, I think the nicest thing to do would be to bind this edge right here and then have your tie coming off each edge, right? It's 2 things to tie for them. So that might be something that may be cumbersome, and maybe that's why they switched to something a little easier. But my idea was, I was thinking we can put a loop, like a little binding loop like this that we put in the seam there. Might be a little hard though to make it that small with these tucks, because we know now that this length right here is kind of tight when we're laying it in there. So maybe my idea won't be great. But if we made this maybe just a little bit smaller, and then we had a ribbon coming from here and here, they could tie it from that point around their head, and it's just one tie, you know? All right, so let's make some binding. If you're new here, you don't know how much I like binding. I really do, and I use it a lot, and I'm just mean to everybody, and I make them sew it with me all the time. So, but I have 2 videos on my YouTube that teach you how to cut it and how to sew it, and I've really worked on that method, and it is not the only method out there in the world. If there's another method that speaks to you, absolutely use it, whatever works for you. There are ways to cut continuous bias. There's ways to just cut up a whole yard of it. There's all kinds of ways to do it. My way is the way I developed for me that spoke to me. So just pick the way that works for you. But the cutting video is really short. It's like 10 minutes long. And I think I quickly cut up a fat quarter, and I go through it and kind of make it very logical to you. And then I have a separate video on sewing binding, and it's a little longer only because I give you lots of ways to apply binding for different projects. It's a really versatile way to finish things. So I might kind of skip over some of those details that would help you here today, and I apologize for that. I'm just not in that frame of mind, but I highly recommend just check it out. And if you don't like my method, look for another one that works for you, because there's so many amazing people out there that sew and sew binding, especially in the quilting world, and they do it in a completely different way that might speak to you. Especially if you're a quilter coming to this project, you might do it your own way. I'm a garment sewist primarily. So that's my little disclaimer, but also I really want to encourage you to try it. Just think of it as another seam. Don't think of it as something that that's intimidating, you know? I think you can have a lot of fun with it. Okay, so let's see. Here's my roll of binding. I don't typically pre-fold my binding. And so yes, I know this is a pre-cut roll, and it's just for the nature of this video. Like I said, I have a lot of this stuff. I'm gonna use the same one. It's just this little green plus sign. I'm sorry, I have the autofocus off so that you don't get seasick. But I'm just gonna use the same one for all of them. I kind of like it. It looks a little bit clinical, and I kind of thought it would be cute. So here we go. We have, let's sew one of these. So I can think of a few ways to do this. I think you could make this, if if you are going to do it like the old school way that Eliza was saying, I think you could do this where you make your mask without seam allowance over here. All right. Just cut that off. I know that doesn't seem like a lot to cut off. Like, why are we cutting that off? I'm not going to sew and turn that edge this time. And the reason I'm cutting it off is because those two seam allowances right there that I cut off, which 3/8 each, is 3/4 of an inch. And that when we're talking about such a small distance going across the front of someone's face, that's a big amount. That's more than 10% probably of the total length. I just accidentally unthreaded my needle. My favorite thing is live streaming threading a needle. Ooh, I got that on the first try, you guys. Most people would worry about other things they have to do live on camera. Me, it's threading a needle. So, all right, so now we're going to turn this. So I just sewed the top and the bottom. I'm going to turn this now. Ugh, I'm really struggling here, sorry. I want that thread out of there. There we go. So let's iron this. Yes, exactly. Hello, Sydney. How's it going? So we're going to just press this. I just press the seam one direction to make it easy to press on the edge. Kind of a la a French seam. If you're a garment sewist, it kind of makes it a little easier. So let's see, we'll just press this edge for the sake of this demo. Look at these cute little foxes. Now, if you wanted to make sure, like, remember how we were talking about the tucks going down on one side and up on the other? If you really wanted to cover your bases, you could sew this with the cats on the inside going the other direction. That way, the mask is, it'll work both ways. All right, so there's his foxes. And now we're going to, oof, do I pre-fold or not? To pre-fold or not to pre-fold? All right, so we're going to measure off a 20-inch amount. This is not a real ruler right here. 12 plus 8, there's 20. I'm gonna mark it. And I would just cut a bunch of these and mark it. And then let's see, what's this distance in here? Gonna finish about that much, and I'll tell you that measurement in just a second. Like this. So yeah, it's 3 inches right there. And then we'll add that. Like that. And we'll test this length out on one before we really settle on these measurements here. Oh my goodness, Sydney. See, here it's spring break, so they would naturally be off right now. All right, so I'm gonna explain what I'm doing a little bit better in just a second. I rarely use pins, but I think for this will be helpful. I think I did pin that to that. Yeah, I did. I'm gonna cut this off. Now, binding is stretchy. That's one reason that it's kind of great. It's kind of forgiving for that reason. It has a lot of stretch in it. All right, so my idea is that this is the width of your mask right here. And the reason I'm putting those pins there in the middle is because we want the equal amount to go on the top and the bottom. So when this is sewn together like this and you have your two ties, these two ties will tie to each other and these two ties will tie to each other. So, all right, so I don't usually sew binding like this, but we're just gonna go for it. I have a clover tool right here. But if you don't have one of these and you can't run out to the store and get one, we're just gonna do it blind, you know. But if you have ribbon, you can use ribbon up to this point, maybe bind it. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here because Eliza reminded me of how these used to be done. But once you get this kind of going, it's going to do pretty good. You could pre-iron it if you wanted. I'm not going to. Let's just tell it what we want and see if it's going to behave. It's for a good cause, binding. Come on. Get with the program. You know? Stay in there. It's a little narrower on that side. This is too fussy. I would not do this. Don't do this. It's satisfying. It's fussy. Let's see if we can get this righted right here. Holy crap. Come on. Get in there. There we go. All right. We'll try one with the clover. I think my original idea of how to do this is actually a better, a faster solution. You've never wanted to do tucks so bad in your life because that means you're not binding it like this. This is actually not how I would do this. I bought the fabric and had it made into binding when I had chicken boots. So this fabric is an older cotton and steel. Let's see, do we want to do it like this? I have it in a few different colors. I love this. I love Kelly green. I bought this with no project in mind. I got a bolt of it and turned it all into binding. And I have a bunch of rolls of it left. I only have a bunch of rolls of like 3 different bindings. This one I actually saved because I really liked how, you know, sometimes you just irrationally save certain things. All right, this is not the way I'm going to tell you guys to do this at all. Now I'm kind of being stubborn and I'm hell-bent on getting it done. So just fast forward. You know. Yeah, exactly. The clover things are pretty nifty. The tucks are usually 1 or 2 folding up and 1 or 2 folding down. That's good to know. That's good to know. I'll show you how the clover thing works. Just in case you have one, you've never used it, or like I said, you have a neighbor that you know has one, or a friend. What's that? You're not welcome. Come on. Oh boy, I'm getting really off track now. Well, this was a fun experiment while it lasted. Thanks a lot, Eliza. No, I'm just teasing. Am I selling any? You know, I still have some of them. They're not for sale on my website anymore. But we can talk. Just message me. It's 1 3/8 inch wide, so a lot of quilters don't like it because it's kind of narrow. And because the roll, like this roll in particular, I think, I want to say it's 45 yards. That's a lot of binding. The 1/4 inch cotton swimwear elastic. You know, I had some of that sitting here. I don't know. They really are pretty specific about what they say. This is a knitted elastic, 1/4 inch knitted elastic. I don't know. All right, so let's see if we can get this in here. This was a bad idea. Let's pre-sew the tucks. I am the first to admit when something's a bad idea. It doesn't mean I'm not super stubborn about going through with it. All right, that actually will fit. Sometimes you got to get through these things to know what not to do. We can get rid of these pins, you know? Hence why you saw that bin of all of our prototypes of things that we didn't do. But this isn't how I would have done this. I know now. This part's pretty easy. this is all folded above and below, so it's pretty easy to do. All right, so now we have one side. How would I do the other side? Let's see. I honestly think that sewing these tucks first. Let's just try this. But I still have another idea that I think will be easier for everybody. I'm just trying to accommodate the person that doesn't have the elastic sitting around, you know, because that elastic's pretty specific. All right, so how I would probably do this is, I think I would sew this in between right now. Go from the wrong side first. And then to the right side like this. Get rid of all these threads. Bind it over it. You can see why they're telling you to do elastic, eh? I just think that elastic is going to not last as long as we hope through sterilization procedures. I mean, honestly, you could probably just leave the long tails, right? But if you just have ribbon, what I would do is sew the mask this way here, and I would stick your ribbon just in the seam where the elastic goes. And I would do, you could even do a 20-inch piece of ribbon on each end, maybe even 22 inches on each end. But like I said, 44 inches of ribbon for one mask is a lot. That's why using binding, it might be something you have on hand, you know. So we'll finish this one, and I'm going to show you how my clover works. This way it's anchored. Kind of made it a little easier to start this way. I'm also, you know what it is? I know it now. I know why that was so hard. I had this backwards. So I typically sew it this way, and the other one I had going this way and folding that way. This time I have it folding this way. That's what it is. That's why that was so hard for me. Look at this. This is so much easier. That's so funny. I wonder why I put that in there backwards. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you mostly garment. So, Judith, yeah, so it would work. It's a lot of yards, though. I almost brought out my rolls of the 3 I had, because I was like, all right, Sam, you're going to use the things you have. And then I thought, oh my gosh, these rolls of binding, you guys are going to be like, Sarah, none of us have that. I have a blue and a purple that are this big in diameter of binding. And it's because we never cut our fall season completely. We only cut about a third of it. So we never sewed it all. And so I still have all the fabrics that go with that. All right, so this is a lot easier if you're gonna, for me, and maybe it's a right-handed thing, maybe it's the way I'm used to doing binding, with the binding coming from this side and grabbing the fabric that way. So if you're even just doing like the empty binding like I'm doing right now, this is what I have learned about myself today. Yeah, I think the biggest struggle with these masks is the tie. I'm kind of curious to see what's in the Providence kits. So in, I think it's Oregon or Washington, there's a hospital there handing out kits soon to sewists to sew masks. And I'm kind of curious what's in this kit, you know? All right, so here we go. Ooh, I feel like an old school, like, doctor drama. You know how they did this? So look how much I have. That works really good, though. That works really good. So this length of string here, I cut these each 20 inches, and then this was 3, so 43 inches on each end. That doesn't need to be knotted. If you want to knot it, you can. Just make sure you backstitch. Bias won't unravel, so you don't have to worry about that. It's a nice little side effect of bias. It doesn't unravel. It's a lot of work, but it is a nice looking mask, you know. So, all right. So let's see. Let me show you how the clover thing works. I'm not the best at it, but I'm going to show you how it works, okay? And I'm going to take off my overshirt because it's hot. All right, where's my binding? All right, so like I said, on my website there is a quick video on how to cut bias binding. I'm using some pre-made binding because I used to have a factory and we had a binding machine. I still have it sitting here that I'm going to sell soon. And it's just an industrial machine, almost identical to the one I'm using now with the binding attachment. And I found that getting pre-cut binding was a much more successful way to run it through the machine rather than hand cut. We ended up getting really good at it and getting our hand cut binding to go through there, but this stuff always worked better. And you can see they press it open. This one was pressed open. Usually it's much narrower when it's pressed to the side. So it's kind of interesting. I've never seen it pressed open, funnily. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Nancy. Exactly, you guys. I watched all of those growing up because my mom's a retired nurse. All right, so how do I like this, you guys? Do I do it this way? How did I find I liked this? Let me remind myself how to do this. I'm an expert. Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a sewist in the house? Let's see here. This little nifty thing is so you can start guiding it through there, right? So now it comes out this way, right? But the thing is, I really wish they would put this thing on this side. All right, but because they don't, I do this. I pin it down to the table. Actually, I'm right-handed, so we're going to do it over here. Center your binding in there. Make sure it is folding both ways first. Pin it all the way to the corner so you have as much area as possible. And then you can just hold it here as you pull gently through your binding attachment. I think there's better ways to do this. I would actually, if I were you guys, not trust me and go to someone who does this all the time. This pin is way too stout. I need to lower it so I can keep my binding nice and straight. Let's see how I'm doing. I'm doing okay though. I'm your gal if you need something in a pinch. I will figure it out for you, but I'm sure there's someone that's done an even better tutorial. But this stuff is pretty cool. I wish it wouldn't go off to the side though. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could put your binding on a spool holder if you're a knitter and you have a spool holder. I think I have one over here. Here, I'll show you what that is. When knitting and sewing worlds collide. See how this is? Like that. Oh, right. A quilter cotton swim elastic is chlorine resistant. All right, so, you know, if you want to make some of this in a GIF, just put on your favorite show. And I would actually do it like this, coming away from this thing. You can probably jury rig something that will hold your spool if you have a spool. If you don't have a spool, you don't have to worry about it, right? I'm actually treating this as if you guys have a spool of binding. Sorry. This is where the angry comments come in, and I'll wake up to tomorrow. Must be nice having a spool of binding. Am I feeling snarky today? No. There we go. All right, so we'll do a little bit more. Yeah, and I agree, Nancy. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's kind of a pain. But it's pretty nifty. All right, so right now we have quite a bit. And then I would go back if you wanted to kind of gild the lily and then just fold it just like this. And then you have your pre-fold binding. Put your folder right angles to the side of the table, and it shouldn't do that. What do you mean, Sandy? Do you mean like so that I'm pulling like this? I feel like it needs to be at a right angle, like directly from my binding. Is that what you mean, really? Like, yes, I mean, that makes sense. Like, if it's coming directly from my binding, that's going to give me less trouble. Or am I missing something? Please tell me. I don't use this, and I don't actually recommend using this like pre-folded like this for any of my patterns. You can use it, but it's not necessary, I should say. Now, when a binding machine puts this on, it's basically having this attachment on the machine, and then it's being sewn. And this attachment plus this, it's folding it like this. As it comes out of the attachment, this is folded, and it stitches it all in one. All right, so we have this one. Let's see if this is any faster when we make our other mask. I think in a way, sometimes even in production, we would do a step that took maybe a tad longer than it would if, we hadn't done that step that way, right? Like, there's ways to draw out the process, but we would get a more consistent result if we did that step that way, and it would lead to less frustration, seconds, issues later on the line. And so sometimes we would opt to sew it that way just for the greater sanity of our workshop, right? Like, oh, add that extra step because later on you won't have to take anything apart, So it's oh, okay. Yeah, oh, okay, so it's following. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. I just want to make sure it wasn't missing some sort of like little trick, because sometimes tools do have those little tricks. I've had these folder attachments since I worked at that fabric store that I showed you that I made the paper quilt for. Oh, you guys, I went to the local sewing studio yesterday to pick up something. There's a little sewing studio locally here that's just a few sewists that they rented out for their personal use, and then they rent space in there. But they, one of them was there that could help me with my mini block sew along thing. I'm feeling prepared for this, by the way. And anyway, I bought some glue from them to refill my glue stick that I can't find actually. And I was like, oh, I could show them my paper quilt thing that I did, and they were so appreciative. It felt so good. I keep forgetting to show my friend Kathleen when she comes by to walk with me, because she is a really amazing quilter. And I want to say, look, I've made one quilt. And you guys have no idea where I got the pattern from. There was no internets back then. Okay, so let's try this out. What did I drop? Did you hear that? I dropped something. What was that? The heck? I just heard a little click. Oh well. That's probably the glue pin I'm looking for. Oh, really, Terry? Like a binding attachment for your machine? I'd be interested to know how that works. All right, so let's put this one on the kitty cat one. Like I said, I'm going to trim the seam allowance here. Not with those scissors. So if there's anyone in the chat that's made these and has any tips, please feel free to tell me. Like, this is my first time making these. I'm just pretty good at coming up with some production techniques for things, but I am always open to criticisms, suggestions, any kinds of ideas. Please share what you know. All right, so here we go. We're just going to do those long sides. See, I've been giving stop ironing lectures to people who production sew. I gave one to my friend yesterday. So this is my stop ironing lecture if you're production sewing. We're just making a few masks though, so do whatever you want, you know, like you're not trying to make money. I'm telling this to people trying to make money, right? You could edge stitch this if you want. I didn't edge stitch it on here. It's fine. Totally fine. No edge stitching. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, with the extra fold. Exactly. Try it out, Terry. Ooh, I would love to hear how it goes. Okay, cool. And Megan, if you're still here, I haven't seen your kitty cat fabric yet. I did look up the locks buttons or snaps that you guys were telling me about. All right, so let's put in our tucks. I should be stitching a little closer to the edge so that I can make sure I can cover my stitching with the binding. Put in our tucks. Tuck. Are they directly across from one another from side to side? We'll never know because I'm not going to show you. 12 plus 8 is 20 plus 3. Okay, so that is 1. I don't have enough for 2. We'll just try this one. All right, so let's see here. Let's find the midway point. It's another way you could figure that out. And then we'll just mark it at 1.5. I don't have any small pins here. I only have these massive quilting pins. Like that. Here we go. This will be a lot easier now to sew, right? Yeah, a lot easier. If you're going to sew empty binding, meaning you're not binding the edge of something, this would probably be the least frustrating way to do it. I can run this through my binding machine just like this. I can just put fabric in my binding attachment, and you could too, Terry, and then just sew it like this so you have nice long ties, basically. Let's trim this edge a little bit here. Get rid of some of this stuff that's going to give us trouble. Stick it in there. You can always get rid of that basting stitch if it starts to give us trouble. All right. So this will be a lot faster to do it this way. My only thing with using binding is kind of a expensive resource. I'm just saying use what you have, you know. Yeah, they were really expensive. I couldn't figure out if that was by the each or not. And I couldn't figure out how they work too, but they looked really cool. All right, so let's get back to our production sewing of masks with the elastic, since that is what they're telling. That is their things, right? Their recommendations. All right, so we're gonna put this 7. I'm gonna make this like 8 inches because my knots haven't been right up to the edge. And we'll sew these last 2. Does anyone have any suggestions or questions? Anything that you would like, you just let me know. Put a comment in the comments section. I'll try and help you out. It's kind of a spur of the moment thing. So, did I do 4 of those? Yeah, I did. All right, let's put our knots in. So this is the one step I would do. So I would cut all your fabric at once, lay it all right sides together, cut out your pattern first. Then I would cut all your elastics. This time I'm doing them 8 inches because that felt kind of tight. Let's try this adult one on. That's not too tight, but if someone was bigger than me, you know, that feels pretty good. Maybe I shouldn't have lengthened it. Like I said, I'm trying to go by the guidelines. This is what they say, right? See, like I say, use my own advice. Don't get too clever. Don't think you know better. Yeah, I thought about that, Sherry. The only thing I was thinking of is that you would still need 2 points of contact on the mask, right? Because if you only had the elastic right here, it probably wouldn't snug around your below your mouth and above your nose. You know what I mean? So like one of my ideas for a ribbon, if you wanted to use a lot less than this, I forgot I was going to show that. That was actually one of the things I was going to show until I got sidetracked on this. I'll show it with one of this little piece I have left over. That's what I'll do. I'll show it on this one here. I think that you could, I think you could do that, especially if you did 2 pieces and then they could join together. You know what I mean? You kind of know what I mean? Like you need this kind of pulling happening from the top and the bottom of the mask. So you would need to be able to figure that out. What am I doing here? I'm going to do one the way I'm thinking with a lot less of this ribbon or binding. I'm actually going to sew all this because of the way I'm going to do it. So we're going to pretend like my binding is ribbon. You can make your own ribbon by doing this. All right, so now we have this piece of ribbon here, and that was a new noise. Oh, that kind of scared me. So I'm gonna cut this 7 inches like I would the elastic. Yeah, right, exactly. Hey, Barbara, how's it going? All right, so let's do this. We're going to do our same sewing method that we did the first time. We're going to start from the bottom. We're going to start away from the center here and leave a little opening right here. And then as we pivot, I'm going to put my little loop in here as if it's elastic, right? Same idea. Now, if you really need to pin this, go for it. You know, pin it in there. Hopefully I didn't, did I just twist that? I didn't twist that, right? Ay, caramba. Let me see. I really want to leave a piece that's long enough for my, oh, I do have a piece. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to leave this. I'm going to make one more. I can always finish this one later. But let me make one more little loop here. I don't have enough to make both my ties, but I'm going to make it so that I can do it later. So I can still salvage this one here. So let me just make another little 7-inch loop. All right, that's probably long enough. All right, so 7, like that. Hello from Vegas. Hello. I'm in California. Hello from California. All right, so we'll add this one here. It's the same idea, and then I'll show you how I'm going to get around with using just half of the amount of ties that I used when I bound those two, okay? All right, so now we can just cut our corners. We're not worried really about catching that binding. That'll be okay. Pop your opening here. Yeah, and wider elastic, you know, what I like about narrower elastics is how unintrusive they are. They're kind of softer on your head, you know. I'm really glad I don't have to wear something like this all the time. It would be hard. I'm really sensitive right here on the sides of my head. Wearing glasses is kind of a problem. That's why sometimes you guys see me wearing my computer glasses, because these are becoming a little bit uncomfortable for me. All right, so now we have our same loops right here, right? So let's just finish this off by putting in our tucks, sewing that closed right there, turning a 1/4 inch away, and then we're gonna tuck, 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 and tuck. Pivot right on the edge. And same thing, now we're tucking towards ourselves. Remember, you're reversing your direction on your tucks when you go to do it. Like this. All right, so now we have this mask. I mean, maybe this would work for someone, but it's probably not stretchy enough. So what I'm thinking you do is you could just sew this. Maybe even do it so that it slides like this and it's adjustable. I wasn't actually thinking of that until just now, but I think that could work. And now you have a mask with a tie on one side, right? So it would be like that. And plenty to tie with, okay? Sherry, but I struggled. I actually am not ambidextrous, but I do a lot of things with my left hand, but I am far from ambidextrous. I use a mouse with my left hand. I'm goofy-footed if I skateboard, which that's not happening anytime soon. I golf. I don't golf, but if I go mini golfing, I golf with my left hand. I bat with my left hand. Isn't that weird? But if I write with my left hand, it comes out all backwards, you know? Okay, so I think that this would be an interesting technique if binding is your resource. So this is my little thing of like, work with your resources. Don't go crazy. Just stick with what you have and what works for you, and make it as close as possible to what the guidelines for your hospital are asking for. If they're asking for a certain type of material, go for that if you have it. And if I know the sewing community, and I feel like I've seen the miracles they can perform, they're going to answer this call just in spades, right? So don't worry too much that if you can only contribute 5 or none, if you don't have the right resources, you know, the sewers are going to do it, right? Really? Mom's night out? That's hilarious. Yeah, but I'm not good at it. I don't know why I use my left hand for certain things. So the mouse is something I had to learn, and I do that because, you guys know I have some hand issues. So yeah. Yeah, there's something else. This is one weird quirk. If I'm going to throw the ball for my dog, it's going to hit the ceiling. Like, I don't know what it is. I cannot freaking throw a ball to save my life. There's this, like, when I'm sitting in I have a little TV area. We have like a funny bedroom where there's like a little area off to the side. So I sit up there. My husband watches a soccer game. I'll play a game upstairs or watch a movie, right? I'm up there. But the door is over there to downstairs. And if I'm trying to keep the dog busy, I chuck the toy that way so that they can kind of go to the landing or something, And we're talking, you guys, the size of a doorway. I cannot throw that stupid thing through the doorway to save my life. It's become a thing to me. But if I use my left hand, I can. Yeah. Is it really? That's hilarious. The hospital close to me wanted to do 100 each. Yeah, but Sydney, are they the ones that are providing kits, right? Well, I don't know, Karen. Karen, the thing is, like, these are intended for the medical facilities asking for them, or anyone asking for them. They are not for you and I to wear around town or at home. They are not to protect us from any viruses. These are for people that are in really specific situations in medical facilities where their hospital has run out of proper masks. These are not the people that are going to be treating people. These are probably very specific uses. They can be sterilized. They can be washed. So I'm following the guidelines of the Turban Projects for their pattern and the Deaconess Health group for the materials and the sewing method. So yeah, but see the plastic between the layers, like how do they breathe? Yeah, I mean, like grocery store workers and stuff like that. I mean, pharmacists, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a medical expert. How the heck would you breathe? Exactly. Because I started sitting there going, ooh, what could I do? Like I am an engineer at heart as far as like what is the best possible thing, right? But it is so easy to overdo it and start going, ooh, I have Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is a waterproof and breathable fabric layer. But if you were to put it up against your face, it's still not breathable as far as like getting oxygen at a good rate, probably, right? But if you were to, put it against a vacuum cleaner, air can pass through. That's the whole point of Gore-Tex, is that if you're wearing a Gore-Tex jacket in the rain, you don't get all sweaty inside your jacket. It kind of breathes and you can stay comfortable. It's a different type of breathing we're talking about, and something I am not an expert in. So that is definitely my caveat here. If your medical facility near you needs something, pay attention to what they want. Like near Sydney, I think they're handing out kits for people to sew. I know one hospital has sewists there sewing things. So just see what you can do if you want to do something, and pay attention to the guidelines. Do not use these to keep yourself free of disease. They are not going to do that. These are a very specific use. These are for people that are probably using other practices in conjunction with this, and they're sterilizing them too. So I don't know. And I think you could leave it open if they start saying, oh, we want to be able to slip something in there. You could probably leave that opening down there open. Maybe even just top stitch that opening edge first, like this. You could do this. You could clip a little spot here like this. That's your opening. And turn it back. Top stitch that edge there. Top stitch this edge on this side as well, right? So now you have a mask that is looking more like this. Okay. Right, this edge has been top stitched on separately. And now you're going to sew your perimeter the way we've been doing. And then once you turn it right side out, leave that open. And maybe they could slip something in there, but you'd want to find out what opening size they need. Not all materials are flexible enough to get through a hole that size for something this big. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the only reason I jumped on this is because I haven't been jumping on this mask bandwagon because I don't really want to condone the use of them for disease prevention for you. It's more that once I started seeing medical facilities needing things, as a sewist, my skills are limited as far as what I can do. I'm not a nurse. I'm not someone who can be out there helping people or building hospitals. Maybe I could stock shelves at the grocery store. They're needing people. But this is something I can do. And so I wanted actually to be a voice to tell you to pay attention to what your local facilities need. Don't just make 25 masks and drop them off on their doorstep. They might just chuck them in the incinerator. Make sure you know what they want, right? And also, I'm saying stick to local so you're not shipping anything because the shipping industry is pretty taxed as well. So that is the blunt way. I know that most people probably want to be able to help, and hopefully we can all help in some way, So if you guys need any other tips or things, just ask me in the comments and I'll see if I can help you out. You can find me on Instagram as well, and feel free to share the video to let people know. And I don't know what else to say, but thanks for coming on my impromptu stream. I can't believe we've been live for 12:30, 1:30, hour and a half. Okay, good. I thought it was like 2.5 hours. I was like, what? Okay. So if you're someone new here and you like to sew, join us once in a while. We always love having new folks here. And we're live tomorrow sewing our bag that you all designed. We're making our prototype. So that'll be fun. And that'll be and maybe the next 24 hours we'll see something totally different with the mask situation, and we can address that too. So yes. So stay safe, stay sane, stay calm. Everything passes. Just try and do your best to help people by being responsible and listening to what the professionals say. Follow the professionals, okay? And thanks so much for coming on a Friday and doing this with me. So take care, and I will see you tomorrow. Let me find. Wait. I'm like ready to say goodbye, and I'm not ready to say. Okay, there it is. Okay, bye, guys.